Okay, I'd like to reconvene the regular council meeting for Wednesday, November 12th. We'll go straight into our delegation, and I'll ask the Lakeshore Rackets Club to stand up, come up to the podium there. You can bring another seat if there's more than one of you. Sure. And just push the button so the red light comes on. And the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, and thank you for the opportunity to present our idea here today. Today we're here to bring indoor tennis to Summerland and the South Okanagan. Tennis is considered the world's healthiest sport. The Lakeshore Racket Center has been part of the Summerland community since 1976. That's almost 50 years. In 2021, an indoor tennis center was being considered and was included in the Rec and Health Center needs assessment. It did not make it into the final rec center proposal because of the cost of $4.5 million. So you'll find that our project here at $1.2 million achieves the same thing, but at a much lower cost. Important facts about the LRC. We are a nonprofit volunteer-based organization. We put in over 2,000 hours a year, and the LRC is very aware that we've been given a permissive tax exemption, which we appreciate from the district. We attract many people from the community with our innovative programming, whether it's tennis, table tennis, or squash. The LRC takes full operational responsibilities for all our facilities, including maintenance of the tennis courts. So why indoor tennis? Why now? Tennis is one of the only sports in the South Okanagan with no indoor facility, none. Nothing from West Kelowna to Osoyoos. Nothing, there's no indoor tennis. We've been trying for 20 years to get it. We have nothing. Right now, Tennis Canada currently has a program to try and increase the amount of covered courts in Canada, and they are offering $200,000 grants to do that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it goes till 2028. The LRC is developing junior tennis, and currently there's 37 junior tennis members in Summerland and 120 in Penticton. So we've got almost 150 kids looking to play tennis, but have nowhere to play it during the winter months. There's other reasons, but the other thing to remember is that the LRC has a license with the province of BC, and currently it runs until 2044. It specifically states that our land has to be used for public recreation facilities. So it's right in line with what the province has asked us to do with that property. We recently surveyed a lot of members, all our members and all the Penticton Tennis Club members. We know that there's going to be great demand for this facility in the South Okanagan. And 80 of our respondents even said that they'd be willing to give $1,000 towards building an indoor tennis facility. So details of the project. This is a 2-court tennis bubble, and it's on the existing LRC property down by Lakeshore Drive. It has a budget of $1.2 million. And as you can see from the attached site plan, it's placed strategically on our current site. And here's an architect rendering of the project. You can see that it shows Lakeshore Drive, and there's a sidewalk that the district has asked for that goes along between Lakeshore Drive and the tennis bubble. And there you can see it placed. The yellow box is the placement of the 2-court tennis bubble right on the same property as our current 3 courts and the existing building. So we've got a budget of $1.2 million. Here's where we're looking to get funding. $200,000 from Tennis Canada that we just talked about, the provincial gaming grant for $250,000, and the District of Summerland, $125,000, the RDOS for $125,000, and then private donations from corporate and private members. So the DOS, a partner with benefits, we're looking to make sure that we allow the tennis bubble to be used by Parks and Rec at least one Sunday a month, if not And if that doesn't work, we're willing to work with Parks and Rec to find something that will, and we're willing to provide it at no charge. Of course, the focus will be on youth. So the final word, the tennis community in the South Okanagan needs your help. It is important to Tennis Canada to have support from the local municipality, and funding of $125,000 from the district will help secure the Tennis Canada grant. Your funding could be contingent on receiving the Tennis Canada grant. And we know from Tennis Canada, I've talked to the girl in charge of community grants. They've already put us in the queue to receive the funding. It's just up to us to kind of bring it over the finish line and for that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Let's open up to some questions. That's all right.
Yeah.
Councillor Trainer.
I really like your idea. I think it's very cool, and I agree it's definitely needed. My question is, how confident are you in the Penticton RDOS grant? Have you presented to them yet?
We have not presented to them yet, Aaron, but our plan is definitely to present to them. And I don't know if Lori Grant was supposed to be here. She's the president of the Penticton Tennis Club. Their club is behind us 100%, and they're willing to come with us to that presentation. And she was supposed to be here tonight, and I think she's just having trouble finding it or parking or something. So,
is your grant from Tennis Canada contingent on Penticton and RDOS's support as well?
No, they want when I talk to Allison. What's important to Tennis Canada is that the local municipality is behind the project. So because it's located in Summerland, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councillor Betts.
Thanks for coming to present today. A really interesting opportunity. We recently as well had a group come forward talking with us about pickleball. And
Yes.
So obviously racket sports are a big deal. I think everybody's trying to secure new inside spaces, partially because of climate change, partially wanting exercise year round. These are both really strong considerations no matter what we do.
Right.
My question actually is about basically, of course, it's right down on the lakeshore. This is a major amenity for all of Summerland. I know it's on the Lakeshore Rackets property, but do you have concerns about the dome and our community sightlines down at the lakeshore?
So if we went back to the site plan, you'll see that it's kind of positioned back in the back corner of the existing lands. And if you walk down there, what you'll find is that it's below the new condo building that's there. So that's kind of going to blend in together. And from what we can tell, it's not going to distract from any neighborhood views of the lake, like from people's houses or so. Yeah, I mean, that's our view, but I can't speak for everybody. Yeah.
I'll follow. Is it the same height as the clubhouse, or is it higher?
It would be higher because it's Doug, it's 33 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Yeah, just to follow up. So for me, that is a concern when we're looking at a community amenity and just everybody's enjoyment down at the waterfront and how that's perceived.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that's on my mind. It doesn't mean that I'm against the project, but it's a consideration that's important.
Sure. And one thing, Adrian, just to keep in mind is that, and I know pickleball, we work with pickleball all the time, and we actually tried to do something jointly on this. But the one thing to keep in mind about us versus pickleball is that we have no indoor facilities. And I know pickleball, they have several. They're trying to get better and improved ones. Tennis has none in the South Okanagan, not one.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Peak.
Could you remind me, because I can't remember, what's the lifespan of these structures?
They're about 20 years.
Okay, and that's even in the kind of sunlight that we get in the summertime and that?
Yes.
And thank you. And this This is beyond where the parking area is and heads towards where the new swimming pool thing is.
Yeah, it kind of starts, if you look at that site plan, it's right at the corner of where our existing outdoor courts are. And then it moves south towards that new condo building.
Okay. My question would be, if we found we didn't have the opportunity ourselves to put that money in, does that mean you couldn't apply on the grant?
We will still apply to Tennis Canada. It's just that in speaking with the girl that's in charge of the grant program, having the municipality, their support is very critical to them in choosing which indoor projects they give funding to.
And if I may ask, we can give a letter saying we support this project. You're saying that if we give money, it's a different level of support?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilman Elfin.
Maybe the mayor can correct me if I was wrong, but was there not a tennis bubble in Penticton where the SOEC is?
There was.
And then really a shame that that structure disappeared because it never was recreated anywhere else in Penticton.
No, what occurred was there was talk of it being relocated and they stored it over 15 years and they didn't properly store it. So the actual structure was no longer viable and the city of Penticton didn't find an appropriate place to relocate that was in their long-term plans. And so that fell by the wayside, even though it was promised to the tennis community of Penticton back when they took it down to build the event center.
Maybe they'd like to promise some more money.
Well, and just one other point, I just want to remind council and the mayor that the Summerland Recreation Society is responsible for all maintenance and operational maintenance of that facility. So it's not going to fall on, your side on to maintain it. We do budget for those things and make sure that we keep those facilities maintained.
Councilor Markle.
Anytime that, we can get a community facility like this and only pay 10% of the cost, it seems very interesting. And on top of that, we get a new sidewalk, which would probably cost $125,000 alone. So I guess my real concern is you've got in your budget contributions from private donations. Is that an aspirational number? Or are there any commitments? And secondly, the provincial gaming grant, do they give grants of that size? Have they, what's the conversations been for those? So our process, first of all, was obviously we had to start preliminary. And so Lakeshore Racquet Club, we raised $40,000 initially to do our initial studies, our geotech, to get to this point. So we already have shown that it's quite substantial that we can raise the funds. And now this is the next step and next stage is to bring all the funding equations together to make the project viable. So we strongly believe that the $478,000, which is just shy of 43% of the overall project, is very obtainable. And none of the other funding would kick in till all the components were there. So we wouldn't move forward till we had the budget and the money, so to speak, in the bank.
And just the answer on the provincial gaming grant. So we apply for gaming grants every year. We get operational grants most years down at our club. We have applied for a capital grant in the past and received it. So we're very familiar with the application process. And yes, $250,000 is an allowable amount from the province.
The other thing that I would add to
to the comments is that it's very similar to just recently the funding that the Blue Jays, for instance, gave to the Field of Dreams. It's conditional to other aspects. And that's the same thing that we're looking for from, obviously, the municipality. It would be conditional if we were able to obtain the funding from Tennis Canada and the other components.
Just following Councillor Van Alphen's comments, I wouldn't be shy about reminding the city of Penticton that they promised you a bubble.
Well, Lori Grant just came from Penticton, and I don't know, Lori, do you want to add anything to that, or?
What? What's there to say? No, I appreciate it, but it's been a source of frustration for decades. So.
Yeah. So this is the most realistic option we've kind of come to in the South Okanagan yet. So we've really put a lot of work and effort into it to try and get to this point.
Councillor Betts?
Two quick questions. So I know, with two more courts, will there be sufficient parking on site if you now are operating at full capacity?
Yes, there's already enough parking presently, and with where we're going to locate the bubble on the property of our property and the provincial lease that we have, we will have ample parking for the extra courts.
Gotcha. And secondly, just a timeline for if council were to bring this forward and consider it, what is the timeline?
Yeah. So right now, Tennis Canada has earmarked a fund that they have funded 15 of 30 projects that they're looking to do. And I would say in conversations that we've had with them that by 2027, 2028, they'll have handed out the 30 grants to the different facilities that they will be supporting in seed capital of the $200,000 for each project.
Okay.
We're hoping to get it started for the 2026, 2027 indoor tennis season.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Chair.
Yeah, so the timeline was one of my questions too. So sorry, you're hoping to start construction next year or have it ready?
Ideally, we'd like to start construction next fall
Okay.
for the winter play of 2026, 2027.
Got it. Okay. I think one thing that's what I like about it is that it's kind of a regional facility. And so I think when you go to apply for your grants, if you emphasize that it's that kind of has a bigger impact on more people. And then the RDOS will also like to hear that. And so will Penticton. Have you ran these plans by our planning department?
We've had several meetings with our architect and the previous director of planning. I think it was Brad.
Yeah.
So we've had several meetings with them. It is now, we've submitted a preliminary official plan to them for preliminary consideration. I think they pass it around to the departments for comments. So that's where some of our, like the sidewalk came from. This is where some of these suggestions have come from.
Okay. And I just have one final question. So I guess if we were to fund this, could it be done over 2 years or is this the kind of project where you need it all at once?
Well, if you wanted to give more than 125,000, then we would like the 125,000 in the coming year. But if you had additional funds to allocate to it, we could accept those in the following year.
Could you just tell us what would the plans for allowing public access to the facility?
Yeah.
And have you spoken to Lori Mullen at the Recreation Department and to be able to maybe coordinate programming with?
Yes, so we did have a meeting. Reed Dave Stathers and myself met with Lori Mullen about, I would say, maybe 6 weeks ago. And we presented our idea to Lori at the time and asked Lori what would work for them. And she didn't know right off the top of her head, but we did offer at that time 1 Sunday a month for complete public access with no charge, with our members showcasing tennis and allowing the public to use the courts. But that was just one suggestion, Doug. I mean, if there's others, we're absolutely happy to
Yeah.
offer them.
And I would also, like to state that in discussions that we've had with the Parks and Rec Department, we have also suggested that maybe there could be some kind of special Summerland public, if you were a resident of Summerland, that you could get a preferred booking rate and booking time, because anyone that plays in the indoor facility will pay a fee to play in the indoor facility. And working with Parks and Rec to provide programming that would allow citizens of Summerland to use it on a more regular basis.
What we're saying is we're pretty flexible. We really understand that if the district is going to commit some funding, that we have to give something back to the public of Summerland in order to, as a trade-off to use some of the money, the funds from the district.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. A couple of my questions have already been answered. I do feel that a bubble is a regional thing, and I think the opportunity to include the RDOS and Penticton is very reasonable. I like the fact that it's going to be handicap accessible. That's important for our community as well. But I did have some concerns around the provincial capital gaming grant, because it's a competitive process. So you're competing against other proposals. But I suppose you can factor that in, whether you get the money or not.
We do that every year when we submit our gaming grant application for operations. It's a competing process.
No, I understand that, but the capital money is a whole lot harder to get.
Well, we've got it once in the past. So I think it comes down to having good proposal writing people, and we do have a couple of the best on at our club, and we're aware of that. And it's not a for sure, and we have to do our best to get it. And same with Tennis Canada. It's not for sure until we get the application and they see what other projects we're competing against. So, all these things require hard work to get them secured yet.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And does municipal support help with the BC gaming grant? Do you know?
I
presume so.
I would presume so, Doug. Absolutely. It's got to make a big difference for sure.
Thanks. Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of to follow up on Councillor Peak's thought from earlier, even if, I don't know the will of council at this point to support or not, but regardless, I'm sure that you would find support, of course, in the form of a letter, if not in terms of funding. We're not at that discussion yet, right? But I'm sure that to have this much of a proposal, if you were able to receive council support, it would help support your grant application just for having support of the location. Because that's always really important, especially that you already have land, but to have council support for that location in particular, I think would be quite important, regardless of securing funding, which of course is a key component, but just that they are a little bit different. Secondly, just, the district support, maybe it could ultimately come in the form of lessons that are partnered through our recreation department.
Absolutely.
Sorts of different opportunities like that.
And when we first sat down with Lori, those are all ideas that we banted around the table.
Okay.
She didn't really know what it should look like. We just said, we're completely open to whatever programming you feel, as in the municipality through Parks and Rec, would benefit from it, and we'll make that work.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I think it's an opportunity, especially we have new courts, of course, in the downtown with the high school, and it's another opportunity to kind of partner and develop young players. But of course, there's also a lot of just, mature players around in our region who are looking for good exercise. So thank you.
Well, and Adrian, I guess, I understand about getting the letters of support, but at the end of the day, this is a $1.2 million project that does require dollars to get it done. And so we really would ask that you really consider providing funding for us, as well as the letter of support. Okay.
Okay, so we do our budget deliberations in December, all through December. So, I guess it'll be part of that. And I don't know, are you hoping to know by a certain date or, because realistically, I'd be hard pressed to give you any kind of answer before January.
I mean, we are starting the process now, which I like to look at it as like stage 3 of the project. So the first initial stage was, do we have the support of our club to do something like this? Second was, okay, we have the support, but now we need to do the geotac and all the preliminary and spend actually some money, have skin in the game, so to speak. And now we're at stage 3, which is, okay, we've put a budget together. We've gone back to the companies that are providing the services to get the most accurate budgetary numbers. And now we need to go out and raise the appropriate funds for the project to happen. So the sooner we know is great, but anytime in late winter, early spring, that's like if your budgetary time frame is not till released to the public till March, that's totally acceptable too.
Oh, no, it'd be January.
Okay.
We have a public open house for our budget mid-January. I forget the exact date, but 16th, 18th, or we can let you.
January's plenty soon enough for us.
Okay.
Doug, and
Councilor Chair.
They're putting the ball in our court.
nice.
On that note, that's a good one. All right, so I don't see there's any further questions. So thanks very much for presenting and
Thank you very much for listening.
yeah, okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Moving on to development reports, the Bottleneck Drive Association signage, and who's taking that?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So for my presentation today, I'm going to be going over the Bottleneck Drive Association signage policy 300.7. I'm going to be presenting some text and policy amendments, as well as bringing forward a request from the Bottleneck Association to submit new design drawings for their signage that are currently up and around Summerland. So in the current sign bylaw, it prohibits third-party signs under section 3.1.1, except for district-sponsored wayfinding or directional signage. At this point, the Bottleneck Drive Association requested and had a policy created to support wayfinding for businesses within the district that are part of this association as members. So in May 2020, this policy was adopted by the District of Summerland, which supports that third-party signage. Since that time, signage has continued to support advertising and wayfinding and directional wayfinding for these alcohol producers, specifically to help support agriculture and tourism promotion in the District of Summerland. So in the fall of this year, Bottleneck Drive came forward to staff with requests for new signage that would replace current, as well as include some additional larger signs as well. Following this, looking at the policy for 300.7, any new signage must be brought forward to council for their consideration and approval. So the proposal presented by the association is to include new directional signage for the smaller signs that they currently have in the district, as well as including larger panel signs that would be installed next to or as in addition to these smaller signs. They have also proposed the association to take over the installation of these signs and posts, taking that away basically from the district, which is currently required through the policy. So with that, the association provided the location map and details for current signage in the district. They've stated there's currently 67 signs around the district. 9 of those will be permanently removed for 58 total signs. And 7 of those will be the larger panel signs, and then 51 of those will be smaller directional. So following the receipt of that, staff reviewed not only the design, but also the requirements for amendments to the policy, and determined that there would need to be a bit more of a deeper policy amendment to acknowledge the change in signage, but also the administration of installation of these new signs. So to start, I'll just go over the design of the signage that's being proposed by the association. So Bottleneck Drive has a very distinct sign and logo, and they are maintaining that, but changing just a color design scheme and reducing the labeling of specific wineries or alcohol producers, so that it will only now just be arrow signs. So there won't be any names listed on these smaller ones, just directional, and they'll be placed accordingly at different intersections where they are proceeding or before that alcohol producer location. The next size of signage that they're producing, which is not what we consider a standardized sign in the current policy, is this larger panel sign, which will then include the name of those different alcohol producers and the directional arrow to show where and what direction. And this is just a comparison of current signage that we have in the district that they've provided as part of their design scheme to show the height and scale in comparison to existing signage out in the district roads. And there will only be 7 of these panels that will be installed as part of their new signage program. So as part of the larger signs, because they are newer and going to be in specific locations, I've just provided an outline showing where those would be located based off of the mapping that was provided by the association. So on these first 2 images, I've circled the areas where those new larger signs are going to be located. So you'll note they're kind of at strategic locations and intersections, either within internal district maintained roads or along highway, which is managed by the Ministry of Transit and Transportation. So any of those highway-based signs would still have to go through approvals through MOTT. And on here, this image on the left is just a zoomed in one from the previous image, just to show the intersection and the context. And then the second on the right there, that image is the 7th sign that would be installed with this larger panel design. So in addition to the design amendments for the signage, a number of policy amendments are also being proposed following staff's review. So a number of new policies are being provided to provide better direction and administration to staff and to the association for the distribution of signs across the district based off of their new plan and location map. As well as addressing the amount of signs that can be placed with intent to provide more smaller signs versus larger signs, just to avoid any kind of like that visual cluster at different intersections. Additional amendments as well include looking at clarity and direction for staff with the number of signs. So we've already had somewhat of an existing policy that addresses the number of signs, but it's based off of per winery. Instead, staff have amended it to say per intersection, again, to avoid that kind of clustering and possible visual conflicts when you drive through at intersections. The removal that we've had here just represents the new design proposal and again provides greater clarity as to where signs can be located. So we didn't need that policy number 4 there, as we had other policies to amend and change. And then this section here just demonstrates a removal of policy tied to when the association has to come in to request new signage, when it has to be installed, and who is installing it. One of the big changes is that the association is taking the responsibility of installing signage, and this is reflected through that. Also, in removing the specific time of the year, it allows for flexibility for them to come in and install signage as needed, and that they aren't restricted by these timeframes and possibly by just like limitations on when designs are finished and installed. So it provides more flexibility that way. And then lastly, there's a number of text amendments that are a little bit more minor. So we have any references to wineries, cideries, distilleries, or vinegar works has been replaced with alcohol producers. In discussion with the association, it was noted that this was a better way to reflect and be more inclusive to the members of the association. And then we also discussed with the association on removing the 75% membership requirement to just say a majority of membership. Again, this was reflected, intended to reflect the changing membership that happens sometimes on an annual basis with the association, so that if they do have lower numbers, at least they can still operate and maintain and still produce signage or have signage changes with a majority rather than 75%. And then just a bulleted item was just formatted differently to provide better clarity for staff as well. So with that being said, some of the financial components of this, in the past, because the district was responsible for removing and installing signs, there is going to be a change now with the administrative changes in the policy where we will no longer be required to do that installation, which will reduce some of the costs associated with past practice. In talking with staff at Works Infrastructure, it was estimated to at least remove these current signs. It will be about $740 with 1 staff and 1 truck use over 2 days. As well, in having those small savings over time, even though it is small, it is still something for us to consider, as well as staff time and where we put staff for work at the district. So with that being said, staff are providing the following recommendations. That council approve the text amendments for policy 300.7, bottleneck drive signage policy statement and regulations as presented, and the council approve the new bottleneck drive association signage design and locations as presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to questions. Councillor Van Elfen.
Not really a question, just one, if there's no argument, I'll move the staff recommendation. No?
Okay, do I have a seconder?
No.
Okay, well, Councillor General will second, and Councillor Barco.
So why doesn't the sign follow our design standards with the blue background and the same font and the wave? And we spent a lot of money getting that design standard for the district, and now we got this whole series of signs that don't follow it.
Through the chair to Councillor Barkwell. So just to clarify, you're referring to our district signs that show, yeah. So I would believe the intent is to differentiate district signs that are meant to direct towards our district maintained facilities versus Bottleneck Drive, which is a completely separate association that, while operates in Summerland, is not owned and operated or maintained by the District of Summerland, and it's meant to provide tourism and agricultural directional wayfinding. So from a staff perspective, the intent of the directional signage here is for very different reasons from the District of Summerland signage, as well as the fact that it is considered third-party signage, and so it doesn't necessarily have to follow our kind of like design that we use in the district.
Yeah, I my thing is, if it's the same as our signage, it in a way means that we're endorsing these businesses, and that could give the wrong impression. Councillor Margot?
That explanation makes sense. I'm still a little bit bothered by it because it's a directional sign, just like others. They're directional signs, but as long as we don't get like 3 and 4 different styles of signs, and this is, a unique situation. I mean, third-party signs in Summerland are unique in themselves, so I guess it doesn't bother me as much now.
That's good. Yeah, Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can remember, was the destination, or the chamber, part of the discussions when this was going on?
Through the chair to Councillor Peak. So in talking with the association, Cameron, who's also here in the audience today, if you did want to direct any specific questions to them, they did consult with them as well as the district. And I think one other group that they are tied to is a way to kind of understand the design changes and signage changes. So they were consulted, yes.
Thank you. I think it's a really good report, and I think it's going to be an improvement. So I think that's great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Worship. Can you tell me what other business company has done their own signs on district property, district right-of-ways besides MOT, and why we would want to give a third party without the district policy or expertise in regards to setting these signs? Why we would want to give that away?
Through the chair to Councillor Patton. So there's an existing policy right now that currently provides third-party directional signage for the Bottleneck Association. So that was back in 2020. So the District of Summerland has in the past installed the signs, but also provided standards for how and when and the frequency of use and things like that. So I think the intent was to try and provide that kind of support for a business and association that promotes tourism and agriculture. Now, whether the District of Summerland would like to do that for other associations, is at the discretion of council, because it is technically in our sign bylaw not permitted to have third-party signage in the district unless it is council approved. Anyone coming in would either have it removed if they haven't been given approval, or would have to come here first and ask permission. Now, to answer your other question as to whether or not we have other third-party signage that has, I would assume, be approved, I'm not aware of anything because this is the only policy that I've seen for it. So I don't know if, Sean, if you're aware of any other third-party signage in the district, but I'm not aware.
If I may, sorry, Odessa, install, because we're now taking away from the district, or I shouldn't say, maybe not the right term, taking away, but we're now giving a separate entity permission to install these signs on district right-of-ways, district intersections, without the same guidelines policy that our own district staff follow for safety reasons in regards to the signage.
Through the chair to Councillor Patton, I apologize. Thank you for clarifying. So what they would be doing is they would be installing based off of this approval here. If council so chooses, they would still have to work with MOTT, and they would still have to work with the Works and Infrastructure Department. They would still have to go through all the kind of the same steps. It would just be, instead of staff time and money and resources, they would just be the ones doing it. But the expectation is that the district would still be consulted to make sure that they're going in the right places. They have to do all the Fortis BC consults as well for gas lines and things like that. So it's not necessary. I wouldn't say, there's no step over us. We still have to be consulted as part of it.
I guess this question would be more to our CAO, is if there was an incident with one of these signs the district didn't have anything to do with, what's the liability issue that we could be looking at?
Through his worship, and it's a good question. I was just sitting here thinking the corporate officer and I might need to chat, because we would want to make sure the association had appropriate insurance associated with any liability in that regard if we're going to be permitting these activities, even though we're consulted in case something goes awry. For sure. And with that, and like we do with events that were named on that insurance as well. We let events happen and road closures happen, but we always require that they have insurance and that they name us in those insurance policies.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Thanks for bringing that up, Councillor Patton. So is that something that we, like if we were to approve this tonight, would that be something that staff would work through then in terms of the insurance? Okay. Does it need to be written into to anything that we're approving tonight?
Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to modify the motion to clarify that.
Okay. Perhaps I should do that then, because I seconded it. So do I do it or does?
You just bring it as amendment and then we'd vote on the amendment.
Our corporate officers searching for something should said we might not need to. We're just going to check.
You're the mayor to clarify. So our sign bylaw, when a business is downtown or something and they put out a sign or they have an overhang, we do actually require them to have appropriate insurance with the district named additional insured. And do you know under the sign bylaw, if the bottleneck drive is just exempted from the third party signage requirements, but the insurance requirements under the bylaw would still apply?
Through the chair to the corporate officers. So I would assume, yes, they would still need insurance because all it does is exempt them from being a third party signage. That's the way the policy's been written and the intent of that particular section of the bylaw. So it basically means that like no one can install a third party sign without permission from the district that's been pre-approved, et cetera. So I wouldn't say that precludes them from having insurance.
So, yeah.
I'd just say add it in the motion, then we know for sure, and we'll make sure. Oh, did you add it? Okay.
So it's not necessary.
Can I just follow up then?
Yeah.
Okay, so insurance aside, I think that the new signs are really good and I think that they are more pleasing to the eye than the current ones. So, and it's nice to see that they're updated and that Bottleneck Drive has taken the time to do an inventory and review them all and make sure that they're all accurate, because we do have quite a few signs in Summerland that are probably out of date. So I appreciate that effort and I think that it will help customers navigate Summerland a lot easier.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think it's actually interesting for me. I really like the tall standalone ones. I like the new, just the redesign. I think that's really well done. But in noting that the individual producers have come off those individual signs and gone onto the one large placard, that one I'm actually a little more challenged with because we've had so many other individual businesses come to council for exemptions and we've said no for wayfinding purposes. So, I'm just struggling with that a little bit, but I recognize that this represents a larger group of businesses and we want to encourage people through wayfinding to our business, to our small businesses in the community. But just going to note that out there, because lots of other small businesses have sought the same support and been denied. But I do have a question about the sign itself. The large sign has specific names on them. Do you know, or maybe Cameron might know, are those names able to be changed as businesses come and go, or do they need to be, does the whole sign have to be reprinted and reinstalled?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Betts. So yes, it was discussed as well with Cameron and the association that they would be able to do kind of like a sticker across it. So if they were removed or added, they can just go in, get something printed and placed on top of it to update it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion, questions? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? And any opposed? None opposed, that carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to 18.2, drought conditions in the Okanagan, and our CIO will introduce this item. CIO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Pleased to open this. So we have been updating council through the summer season on the changing conditions as we move through drought level 3 into early October as a precautionary measure. Irrigation shutoff and more recent moisture in the watershed have together helped curtail the rate of decrease in the impounded water that we hold in storage. However, Summerland reservoir levels are low and trending downward. While the flows are reduced in the fall and winter period, they do still represent a challenge to maintaining reservoir levels. Like a slow leak in a car tire, the effects of a slow release over time are not immediately apparent, but given time, the result is a serious issue for next year. As a further proactive measure, staff have been working with the province and are recommending that we now move to drought level 4 to give ourselves the best starting point possible in the springtime. This also should help the salmon in 2026, as our modeling suggests that if we act now, we will save more water in the reservoirs, and so then we should be able to maintain better flows in late summer 2026, next year that is, at the time when the salmon are once again spawning. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Utilities, Mr. Stormold.
Thank you, CAO Stat. Council, this presentation outlines the current drought situation in the Summerland watershed, and it summarizes what we're seeing in our reservoirs and explains why staff are recommending to Council that we move to drought level 4 at this time. While the irrigation season is now over, the decision is about protecting our water supply for next year. Summerland's water system includes 11 reservoirs with combined storage of about 14,000 megaliters. We have 6 certified operators who monitor and manage the system year-round. Their work includes measuring snowpack, inflows and outflows, and reservoir levels. Water levels in Trout Creek are managed according to a provincial operating agreement that came out of the 2003 drought. This means we must balance 3 priorities: supplying water for people and agriculture, maintaining fish habitat, and ensuring there's enough storage to carry us through dry years. Through 2025, we saw the development of progressively stronger drought indicators. The provincial drought level jumped from 0 to 4 in just 7 weeks, from late August to early October. Locally, we entered storage 5 weeks earlier than normal, which means freshet runoff ended early, effectively starting our summer early. Snowpack measurements in May were well below average, and for the first time on record, Isentalk Reservoir did not spill. We've been in continued contact with the Ministry of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship, and they've confirmed that these conditions are being seen across much of the Okanagan and southern BC. Looking ahead, we've modeled 2 possible outcomes for 2026 based on the same snowpack and rainfall we experienced during our last freshet earlier this year. If we move to drought level 4 now, we can start 2026 stronger around drought level 1 with higher reservoir volumes. If we stay at level 3, which is the level we're at today, we project we will start 2026 at drought level 2, meaning much less buffer for the irrigation season. Moving to level 4 now improves our chances of entering spring in a better position to serve domestic, agriculture, golf courses, and greenhouses, as well as the district-owned Cemetery Park playfields next year. This graph helps us see where our reservoir levels could end up next year, depending on what action is taken now. This graph is a forecasting tool that was developed after the 2003 drought, and for 20 years, it has been staff's main guidance for drought levels. And we review this graph as we go through summer every couple of weeks. The light blue line in the background represents what happened in 2003. That was the most challenging drought years on record for Summerland, where we have good data. The green line is 2025 actuals, so this current year, showing in October a drop below the lower limit for refill. And that's the lower limit for refill in the following year, so for next year. When we drop below that line, we believe there's a higher risk that we won't be able to refill our reservoirs the following year. The red line predicts what may happen if we stay at drought level 3 this winter. In that case, our reservoirs would start 2026 very low, and we may reach drought level 4, meaning a year of heavy restrictions. The blue line, the dark blue, shows what happens if we move to drought level 4 now. By taking that step now, we reduce releases to Trout Creek to conserve water in the reservoirs. That means when we get to next spring, our reservoirs could have higher volumes, putting us closer to drought level 1 or into drought level 1. This graph shows that early actions can pay off. Declaring drought level 4 now gives us a better chance of avoiding deeper shortages next summer. So what does drought level 4 mean? If moving to level 4 drought, the key impacts will these key impacts will be realized. Environmental flows for Trout Creek will be reduced to around half of where it is today. This is where our immediate volume savings are for the reservoirs. Agricultural, cemetery, park, playfield, and golf course allocations would drop from 800 millimeters to 560 millimeters, roughly a 30% drop. That's following our drought management plan. This increases the cost of water for some of those users. Greenhouse allocations would drop from 1,727 millimeters to 1,209 millimeters. This may increase the cost of water for those users. Non-essential outdoor watering will be prohibited unless done by hand. That impacts domestic. There will be an increased need for bylaw enforcement. Because parks watering is impacted, community services will need to plan accordingly. Because of the time of year, I just want to stress that this step won't change much for users now, because we're in November. But if drought level 4 was maintained into next summer, these impacts would be realized. This is about setting expectations and communications early, especially for ag users. The drought response plan also lists several other additional measures for consideration. One is using emergency wells at the rodeo grounds to add to the Trout Creek flows. We could further make reductions there or further gains for our reservoirs. Prioritizing perennial crops like orchards and vineyards over annual crops if water becomes scarce next year. Implement an emergency response team in case we approach level 5 conditions. And if needed, declare a state of local emergency to protect essential water supply for health, safety, and firefighting. Our goal is to avoid reaching that point through early action and careful planning. The immediate next steps recommended by staff are to declare drought level 4 and move to water use stage 4 under our bylaws. We will be working with the ministry to reduce Trout Creek stream flows to the critical environmental flow threshold and issue the attached press release to inform property owners. We'll continue coordinating with the ministry on supplementing flows using the rodeo grounds emergency wells, which we're working with them even today on. And we could report back to council next year as freshet develops. Because ultimately, council, we don't know what next year is going to look like. These are just projections based on the last freshet. A good snowfall could help us out on this, and we could get through another year. But if it's the same as this last year, these are the numbers we're projecting. Here's a list of the council resolution we're recommending. In summary, reservoir levels at a historic low, probably not seen since the 80s. Projections show that we could be in deeper drought next year. Declaring drought level 4 now does not significantly impact residents today. It's a protective measure to secure our storage for next year. And with that, we can take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Worship. If we go to drought level 4, do we let all this information out now? So greenhouses that depend on a certain amount of water will know they'll have to be more careful, more judicious, or not plant as much. If we're not watering our own plantings in that, do we know if we need to plant at all, or would you plant on our boulevards and the roundabouts, etc.?
Thank you, Councillor, through the mayor. We would need to engage our parks staff and our director of community services on that and talk to council. If we ended up in that situation, we need to come back to council and talk about exactly what we'd like to see done for our parks. And so right now it calls for a reduction in allocations, and that's all the bylaw speaks to currently. It's expected it would be hand watering only if we followed the domestic rules.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Councillor Chair.
So if we go to 4, at what point would you bring it back to 3? And is that something that would come back to council? How does that work?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the mayor, we would expect to come back to council during freshet, so probably June. So right now it's all weather predictions. Again, it's just a projection, but we would expect to come back once we know our snowpacks, once we see freshet develop and we know what's in our reservoir. Specifically, we would target probably just before we go into storage. So we went into storage in June this last year. So we probably come back in June when we hit storage. That's the start of summer for us. We know how much water we have and we can take action at that point. So until that point, if council decided to go to level 4, we would be in level 4 until that occurs.
But it says in your presentation that you want to start irrigation season in level 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just a point of clarity there. We project on that graph that we could be in level 2, but it doesn't necessarily mean we would move to level 2. So that we use that as our tool to just, it's one of the contributing factors to decide which drought level that we're in. We don't necessarily have to follow it verbatim. So if we started the year at drought level 2, council may decide to stay at level 4, move to level 3, or go to level 2. We would bring that information forward for your decision with all of the information that we have at that time, not necessarily automatically go to level 2.
Okay, but so what are we communicating to irrigators? Because people will want to know, well, is it this just for the winter? What's the question? People will want to know what level we're going to be on when they turn the irrigation on, right? So what's the communication for that?
So what we could do is before irrigation turn on in April, we could come back with a report and with all the information we have to date. It will be hard to make a decision at that point in time because freshet will have only just sort of started. So we won't know reservoir levels, but we will at least know snowpack, and council could decide at the point of irrigation turn on which drought level to start the year in. And then we could do further reports as the freshet develops.
Councillor Tran.
I think that that's really good, just keeping people updated as we go along. And that if we put this information release out too, I think that also gets buy-in, like, here's what we know right now. Here's what could happen. We're going to monitor and we're going to give you an update along the way. And that just gets people, all on the same page and hopefully some buy-in, and that the public sees what we see and we're making decisions, along the way.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you. So I mean, last year irrigation, we're at level 3, correct? Most, or for part of the year?
We went to level 3 just recently, about a month ago,
Okay.
in October.
And that doesn't affect our 800 millimeters.
Because we went to, thank you, Councillor, through the mayor, because we went to drought level 3 late in the year, we didn't make any changes to allocations. The drought response plan does say we need to cut allocations by 20% at that point, but we went to level 3 just as turnoff occurred, so felt it would be unfair to penalize anyone over that because it pretty much happened on the same week.
But so I know we've had this conversation many a times around this table with the blue box and the allocations per arable acre. There's a lot of people out there that don't, they know they have 8 arable acres and they have X amount of water they can use, and they get a quarterly, monthly report on how much water they've used, how much water they have left. A lot of those people irrigate, beyond, because they can, because they have that arable acres and they have that water. So there's no real incentive to cut back. Like domestic, you have a system where you got this much allocation, costs you X amount of dollars. If you exceed that, there's the penalty. So people try their best to stay under that, obviously. But in ag, you can use your entire allocation of water, and if you don't go over, there's no penalty. So how do we tell people to try to stay under or use less? Because there's no incentive. There's no, good thing Dave's not here because there's no money, right? Like, there's no incentive for these people to stay back, unfortunately. And I mean, that's where I think there's a bit of a flaw in the blue box system. But, there's no incentive to go out there and try to buy better irrigation equipment, because you're going to pay the same amount at the end of the year. So why, I think there's people's mentality out there. Why would I upgrade when I know this is what I got to pay? Even if I could cut my usage in 50%, still paying this. So I think it's something we have to have a discussion about around the table in the future, and how we can conserve more water in the agricultural sector, possibly.
Okay, Councillor Betts?
Thank you. I do have actually a point I'd like to kind of get into, but just as a question to follow up to what Councillor Van Elfen was saying, if reductions of allocations do happen in drought level 4 to 560 millimeters for agricultural users, if they go over that, what is the penalty?
Thank you, Councillor. That is the inclining block fee. So essentially, the water gets more expensive once you reach allocation. So as Councillor Van Elfen was describing, the blue boxes are essentially a water meter for the agricultural properties. They're read, those meters are read one time per month, and the results are posted on the district's website. Agricultural users go to the website and look at what their read is based on their meter number or their account number. So they pay a fixed rate, a fixed fee for water up to 800 millimeters today. And so Councillor Van Elfen is describing, well, there's no real incentive for them to reduce when they're using below 800 because it's a fixed price. The drought response plan speaks to reducing that allocation from 800 millimeters down by 30%. So they have less water for the year. And so the idea is that they will use less water because they don't want to hit that 560 millimeter ceiling. If they do, they're going to experience significantly increased bills.
Can you specifically tell me what the increase is? Do you know? Or is that a Dave question? Like the water rate, can you specifically tell me what that is?
Thank you, Councillor. It's written in the water bylaw, or yes, for this one, it's in the water bylaw, the water utilities bylaw. And it'll depend on each user and how much they go over. It gets worse the higher they go. And so my understanding is there's only a handful of users that go over 800 currently in the whole district, maybe less than a dozen or so. If it was reduced to 560, that number would increase.
Oh, definitely.
But many users would not see any difference because they don't use even 560. Recent analysis shows that the average ag user in Summerland uses 444 millimeters. The average.
Right.
A lot use more and a lot use hardly anything. So it's an average number.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. So the point that I wanted to know that information, but the point that I wanted to bring forward for discussion is more of a philosophical discussion about whether or not to move to drought level 4 right now. But I've been thinking, I think this is the most important item on the agenda today. I think it's really important looking forward to next season, whether that's for, farmers and their planning. Well, if you have new trees that are coming in, are you going to maintain that order? If you may have difficulties making sure that your trees can take root properly in the ground, if water reductions are going to be in place, but you could put if you cancel that order on fruit trees, your stock could become out of cycle by 2 or 3 years. So if we move to drought level 4 and everything, if we get a proper amount of snow this year, proper freshet, and we've already kind of administered the reductions, people make changes, and we end up in a better situation than possible, then there's implications the other direction that people are making business decisions. Looking at, I think the community response from just such, I think planning for a really strict regime of lack of not watering our lawns. I know trees can do drip or by hand, but I think that could have quite a gut kind of response from people. This all happened really quickly this year, which is just really impactful. I don't think most of our residents really understand the situation that we're in right now. So Jeremy, is there like the option of either going to the level 4 right now? The alternative is staying at level 3 and monitoring through the winter season that we don't know what's to come, and waiting to see, and then starting our communications in advance, being that, hey, we might have to move to a level 4. This is going to have major implications for everybody. To me, that's the other side of the coin, is staying at 3, starting a communications campaign about where we're at versus moving to 4 right now and getting in a better situation and pulling back. So that's what I'm trying to balance. I'm trying to balance the data and the science versus not knowing what's going to come with our winter weather and just community response. So that's what I'm trying to grapple with here today. Anybody have any thoughts?
Councillor Barkman.
Yeah, I don't see this as complicated at all. I think we can go to level 4, reduce the flows, make sure that there's a little bit more water in the dams and this, for the start of the freshet, and then we'll look at it again. We'll look at it every time we get a snowpack report. If the snowpack report's 110% on average, then we'll probably be in good shape. But right now, it's all, it's like the sky's not falling. We'll know if the sky's falling next year. But it's prudent to try and have as much in storage as possible. And by going to level 4 and reducing the fish flows and such, we put ourselves in a better position. It's that easy.
Yeah, I kind of think the same way. I think it's not great going to level 4 now, but it'd be even worse going to level 4 next summer. So, Councillor Peak?
I think you prepare your population because that's the job of us doing that. I think you'll have to let them know. We may not have all the knowns in place, but we have to let them know that this is a possibility and the preparation is important. Could I ask a question? And maybe it's beyond making the decision on today, but do we have plans when we would trigger doing the work to have our license workable from the lake? I know we have the license, but is there a trigger point? Is there any policy that tells us that, Jeremy?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the mayor, in the 5-year capital plan, there's no real work on that. I think maybe in 2030, there may be some design money to start that project, but currently in the 5-year horizon, there's no work on that.
Is it something that you will start to think more about? Because 2030 is not that far out.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the mayor, it's a major decision to put a treatment facility on the lake and start to pull there. It's not an inexpensive endeavor. It looks like, looking at the data, and it's in the council report in more detail, but it looks like we go through a drought cycle every 20 or 30 years. So 20 years ago, we had one. In the 80s, we had one. And in the 50s, there was one. Before that, who knows? So we're hoping this is just another cycle and we'll see what happens in a couple of years. But we have a pretty robust system. In 2003, we didn't have the thirst raise. That didn't happen until 2007. So some of these tools were created and some of our operating agreements were created before the thirst raise. We don't exactly know how that's going to help us out. It's going to definitely help. Thirsk is our main asset for our water storage. So I'm a little bit optimistic there, but at the same time, for Eisentalk area, we had 0 snowpack at a time of year when we should have had some snow. And that caused it to not spill at all. And we have no record of that happening the way Eisentalk sits today. So we don't really know what's going to happen next year. It's like predicting the weather. But putting an asset in at the lake and turning more towards the lake as a water source and somewhat away from the watershed is a major decision. And it is in our water master plan as an item that could be used for consideration. Currently, we're investing in our dams. That's what the 5-year capital program shows. We are increasing spillway sizes, meeting dam safety requirements, and we're investing in the watershed currently. That is our direction today.
Councilman Elfman, then Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I don't have a problem with going, right now, go to level 4. But I want to make sure that we communicate with the agricultural users that will be, if it stays that way, will be from 800 millimeters to 560 millimeters. Jeremy, you made a statement that the average farmer uses how much? 400 and something? 444 millimeter, but also you got to take into consideration there's all different aspects of farming. You got grape growers that use very little. You got forage crop users, livestock producers. You got all sorts of different types of farmers. So it's not the same for everybody. And also we've got the Garnet Valley system that has nothing to do with the Trout Creek watershed. So if I'm not mistaken, Garnet Valley Dam did spill this year. So how would that affect if we went on a level 4? How would that affect the growers out in Garnet Valley that aren't on the system? Just, just future conversation possibly.
Thank you, Councillor. That's a good point of discussion through the mayor. So the way we, in Summerland and in most communities, the way we charge for water is the same across, no matter where you are in the community. So we don't charge more in Trout Creek for water because it costs more to deliver water there as opposed to maybe in Upper Town. The same goes for Garnet Valley, even though it's a different watershed, we charge the same way that we do for someone in Prairie Valley. And that's how the water utility bylaw is set up today.
So but in determining drought levels, I think that's more what Marty was getting at. Could conceivably you have a drought level different for agricultural users? You're in drought in Garnet Valley than you could in the rest of the city?
The drought response plan does not differentiate those two. It uses the tools developed in 2003, and that's using the Trout Creek reservoir levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Councilor Barco?
Since Councillor Peak touched on this, and we're having a water discussion, and it came up about, right now our capital plan is all to keep the dams up to snuff, up to the ever rising provincial standards and costs with that. If we get to a point here where we're looking at big dollars for dam repairs and big dollars for system separation, it's been suggested, and I've never sort of heard it discussed among the people that actually have the means to look into it, but that a good solution is to pump water from the lake with their license into the Giant's Head irrigation system. It wouldn't have to be treated. It's a section that's kind of there now that the road is done, and it's orphaned from the main supply route because of the that gap in the middle there. So you would kill two birds with one stone. You would increase your supply by not having to have as much go down, from the Trout Creek system, and you would get that irrigation water. You'd have less through the treatment center, and deal with those days when they hit that 75 megaliter limit and ask people to cut back. And it's, it could be in the future that we hit that limit more often. So it's something to keep in mind as we're going forward and looking at all our options. I'd like to make sure that one's on the table.
Okay. Let's make sure we don't digress too much here. Councillor Betts.
Thank you. I'm focused right here in 2026 and what we're looking forward to and afraid of. I appreciate that my other council members appear to be comfortable with drought level 4, but for me personally, I think I would prefer that we stay at a drought level 3 with a communications plan that's starting now, where we can transition to drought level 4 as needed in the spring. I'm just really struggling with the implications of this, of how drastic it's really going to be. Because if we're in level 4, like normally we turn on, even like the spray deck gets turned on in May. I'm assuming that also goes. Spray deck, do you know? It's non-essential.
Which?
Spray deck down at the Peach Orchard.
Well,
this is a severe impact to every single resident, not just children in a spray deck. For me, I feel that there could be a lot more awareness of what level 4 looks like and staying at a level 3, not knowing what winter will bring. But that's where I sit, and I understand that that's not the staff recommendation at this time.
Councillor Nelson?
I'd prefer to go to level 4 now, and then come spring, when agricultural season begins, hopefully we're sitting at a level 2 and we can carry on with our lives. But I don't want to go from 3 now and then 4 in the spring.
That's the risk. Councillor, not sure who's first here. But,
Yeah, I think starting this now is really important. I think that if we go to level 4 in the spring, people, knowing what we know now, people will be like, why did you not start this earlier? I'd rather have it now because not many people are watering right now. Give them a chance to get used to level 4, think about what it's going to mean. I think it's better to be precautious on this. And I was going to make another point. Oh, yes. The other thing is that I could be wrong, but several areas in the province are at 4, right, already, and in the Okanagan. So it's been in the media quite a bit. So I think that people, when we do this, I'm thinking that people will understand why and know we're not, doing this without a lot of thought and looking at what's going on around us. So I'm okay. I mean, this is not great for anybody, but I think that getting it now and then reversing if we need to in the spring is more comfortable for me than doing nothing and having to make a change in the spring.
Yeah, we've actually been really lucky. And there are other communities in this province who have been dealing with this for consecutive years. And, so it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I agree. Now's the time to go to level 4. If we take a look at our urban users, there's no irrigation systems on, there's no swimming pools getting filled up. Like, this is the time, if we're going to do 4, let's go now and ride it through the winter until springtime. And then we check to see that we put, I'm not speaking of the urban users, but of our farmers that would be in a better position come springtime for their irrigation needs. So I think, now is the time to go to 4.
Speak.
Yeah, I agree. We telegraph this at a level 4 in advance of a not a very good not a very good outcome, but if it changes, then we have a better outcome. But I must admit, the last 2 years, I have had people say to me, why aren't we in a greater drought level? I hear about everybody else having so much difficulty. As Mayor Holmes said, we've just been very lucky that we haven't had it earlier, that didn't have 2 years ago. But I think it's more responsible to say to people, we're going to start at 11:4.
Thank you. Just through Jeremy, honestly, I appreciate you bringing this report forward. It's definitely critical, but I don't know how we can communicate to the agricultural community. Just because you have 8 acres of allocation doesn't necessarily mean you have to irrigate when there's a thunderstorm. You know what I mean? Like, it's so frustrating. There's responsible people that are trying to look after this resource. And then you have others going, well, I'm being charged X amount. I'm going to use every drop I can. There's no incentive, like there's no carrot, so to speak. It's really frustrating. Like, if you had a farmer that had 10 arable acres and they kept their water down to like 50% of their allocation, like, there's not even a pat on the back. Like, there's no, I'm not looking for dollars. That's not what I'm saying, but I don't know how we put that message out there that what one person does is going to affect somebody else. Like, if somebody wastes water, then, and I mean, there's a lot that aren't over, but, I think we need to look at the records and say, okay, how many are really close to being over? So, yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's got to be some way to, and I think this level 4 is a definite warning, because I can't operate on, probably 560 unless we're getting lots of precipitation. So it's going to affect a lot of people. So we need to get down to level 2 by spring.
So we've talked about having a farming roundtable where we invite all the farmers in town to hear their concerns, and I think this it sounds. I think it's really a good idea we do this and we talk about this to them, and even ask them. We put that question to them because I think the vast majority of farmers are responsible. they're concerned about conserving water themselves. But there's some who, just like anything, there who aren't. And so, we can put that question to them, how they think we can get that message across. But it's all about communications. So, Councillor Valls.
Just a suggestion through to yourself, Mr. Mayor, maybe our CAO, could we use the agricultural committee as that venue? It's up to you.
Councillor Bett.
So if we're looking to go this direction, I know there's discussion about communications with the broader community, how to make them aware. I just think to be really aware of timing. I think if we go, hey, everybody, we're in drought level 4 right now, it kind of is right over a lot of people's heads because it's not important right now. So timing of messaging is really important. Maybe the egg users need to know sooner than later, but I think our average residents might benefit more of a spring messaging. We, obviously beyond sharing that, yes, this is a reality, we're moving there, this is the impact, but in the spring, if this is where it stays, we're going to have to do a really effective rollout, and that might be at every entry level into town and what that means. I just think this could have a really big impact on everybody. So planning for that and at the right time is a good idea.
Sparkle.
Related to that, I think that we could do more to make it a real news event each month when we get the snowpack levels. Just putting water and water conservation and water supply at the top of mind. As far as this goes, I see no downside to going to level 4 other than the fish flow aspects, and only upside by starting the year with more water. So it's a no-brainer for me.
CEO.
Thank you, through Councillor Barkwell. And in terms of fish flows, I think the way we would message it too is this is us trying to put fish in the best places possible when they need the water at the end of when they're spawning at the end of next year too, right? We want to make sure we have the water for them next year, whereas the spawn's really complete this year. So,
have we been able to talk to ONA or PIB?
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. We have voicemails in with ONA and PIB and emails. Currently, we don't have a response yet unless our CEO's received anything. Nope.
but I did call the CAO of PIB and also a key contact with the band and left messages for both of them, but I haven't heard back yet.
Thanks. Okay, I think we need to have a resolution on the table. Councillor Trainer. Is it on the table?
It's on the table.
Oh, it's on the table? Oh, okay. So if there's no further discussion, you didn't bring it forward? No, that was the last resolution. I don't think it is on the table. No.
I'll bring it forward.
Okay.
I'll bring it forward.
Seconder, Councillor Peak. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And none opposed. That carries. Okay, be talking about this further, I'm sure. 19.1, rise and report. Corporate officer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. Before we consider this, after council made the resolution on the bottleneck drive, Julie and I really looked into the sign bylaw and where I thought they were only exempt from the prohibited signs. The policy does state that because they are directional signage, they're exempt from the whole bylaw. So I am requesting if it'd be the mayor for a reconsideration of that motion. So sorry, Steve, can you go back 2 slides?
Can't we just add another motion? Just make another motion?
In theory, you could, or we could just do a quick reconsideration, which we would just make note in the minutes. It'd be a reconsideration under Community Charter Section 131. And really, what I would propose, and of course it's up to council to decide, would just be to add this section to.
Waiting for a drum roll?
Yeah, sorry. It would just be to add the bottom section, that they be required to, the Bottleneck Drive Association be required to obtain insurance in accordance with the sign bylaw, and that this be reflected in the actual policy itself.
Well, that could just be a separate resolution. We don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of rescinding this and passing it again. No?
Bring it forward under reconsideration, the way it works, if you bring it forward is if would make note in the minutes that the mayor requested reconsideration, it actually just brings the whole first motion to the floor without it being debate or first and seconded. So then we could add the bottom part. It is a bit cleaner. I see what you're
I
saying.
think that way is cleaner myself, but whatever works for you. I'll bring this back for reconsideration.
Yeah, to add the part in red, and then this would result that they would be required to obtain the proper insurance and that this be also reflected in the policy. So in the future, they would always have to get the insurance for their signs.
Okay, so first we need a motion to
No, if you bring it forward
Okay.
as the mayor, you actually don't need to, as long as it's done in the same meeting.
So we need a motion to amend?
No,
Or
it
no,
brings
just,
up,
this is it, eh? Okay, just a
Yeah.
motion for this now.
How are you?
Oh, wow, geez, I should use that more often. What was that one? It was a split vote? Okay, so somebody has to move it, right?
you move it as
Yeah,
presented
so
on the screen.
Councillor Peak, second Councillor Patton, all in favor? None opposed, that carries.
Thank you.
All right.
And Graham asked me to say that he was right, and I was wrong. And Councillor Trainer was right as well, so.
Okay, so item 19.1, Rise and Report, Corporate Officer.
Thank you again, Mayor. So council and committee made the resolutions that are on the screen, and I apologize, they are a bit small. During its October 29th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. As such, the resolutions are being forwarded to the governing body, which is you as council now, to be confirmed. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Don't know if we have any questions, but yeah. Okay, thank you. Moving on to notice of motions. Any notices of motion? Council reports. Anybody have a report? No? Okay. Must have been here a long time. Then a motion to adjourn. Councillor Patton, Councillor Peak, all in favor?